Chapter 4. The morning was still very cold, and the only sound that could be heard was the howling of the zephyr. Iran for some time now has been experiencing this harsh weather, probably due to the greenhouse effect. This is not strange. Just like in many other countries, this effect has been identified as a rising issue that comes with a lot of disaster due to high level of industrialization among other factors and causes. But it must be agreed that something ought to be done to cushion this effect. Unlike any other morning since this previous week, this morning seems more quiet for the fact that since the last attack unleashed on Iran by Iraq, no retaliations has taken place, nor have there seemed to be any action taken towards organizing a revenge mission. Worst of all, Premier Razak, who was in charge, have always been known as a man of few words, a magnet, manful, formidable, and was well known for action. But this time, what could be wrong? As he seemed not to be living up to expectations, could it be that he is still in shock? And the attack took him unaware? Or is he silently cooking up a surprise attack against Iraq? Who could tell? Nobody fully understood the essence of his silence, as anything could still happen. If not, he would be at remiss. Premier Razak walked into the arsenal, his eyes gazing heavily at the artilleries and armories. As he walked past the soldiers, they all turned towards his direction as his presence drew attention. Premier Razak walked into the arsenal, his eyes gazing heavily at the artilleries and armories. As he walked past the soldiers, they all turned towards his direction as his presence drew attention, as though they were ready to respond to a command. He paused and then threw his gaze at them for some seconds. Their hope were arose as some thought at last the silent premier has awoken from his slumber. But he swiftly turned and left the arsenal. They were all surprised at the performance the premier just displayed, and turned to their cliques to discuss what just occurred immediately he had left. Premier Razak is a very difficult man to read and predict, no matter how hard you try. But the soldiers were still eager to understand why he acted the way he did. None of them was ready to confront him, as this could amount to something disastrous to any soldier who had the nerve and could summon up courage to do so. After putting heads together, they all began to chant a welfare song. They all began to chant a welfare song with one voice, for this might eventually pass across their message to their premier without anyone getting bothered. They increased the intensity of their voices to draw his attention, and as this was ongoing, they noticed him looking out the windows of his office. They got what they wanted. They all seemed satisfied now, as they have successfully passed across their message. He needed to warm himself up, as it was still cold. He could hear the soldiers raise a song and knew exactly why they broke into uproarious singing. But he seemed not to be worried. As unruffled as he is at the aims of affairs and made all the key decisions, and as such, the singing could practically have negligible effect on the choice of decisions. He puffed the cigarette slowly, one more time, and blew the smoke into the air. He seemed so relaxed, and you could say he had everything under control. Just as he was enjoying the third stick of the cigarette, the old wooden door cracked. Someone was at the door. Just as the door was beginning to open, he started wondering who could dare to disturb him at this time. And even without knocking, in no time, he was staring face to face at his two right-hand men, who he always consulted concerning any issues. This was his fellow like. He could read the expression written all over their face, that they needed desperate measures for his desperate situation. They were beginning to get fed up with the whole routine of silence that has been going on since the last 1 week after the unexpected attack. Hassan spoke vehemently to the premier in his deep voice.
Razak, you have been keeping silent for too long. What are your next line of action? This is unlike you.
I never wanted any of this. Not until you and Bazook persuaded me. Even when I insisted with Lilo, now see where it has led to.
This is not the time for wailing, lamentation, or apportioning blame.
Razak, Bazook, and Hassan have been best of comrades for a long time, even before Razak became premier, and have fought side by side in so many battles, and as such, their bond was one that could never be separated. Razak always consulted them about issues, as they were both as experienced as him. He continued to stare at them, giving them a cold look, and they were both shocked and short of words, as they had never seen Razak behave in such a manner as this. They both turned angrily to leave the office, as they perceived he was not willing to give answers they needed and were expecting. Probably they would return to him when they feel he would have returned to his right senses. As he approached the door, he responded to them in a calmer tone.
My friends, I know exactly how you feel, and I also know exactly what I am doing. I will get back to both of you.
They paid no attention to what he said, as he was still amazed and not convinced of his intentions. His words seemed like empty words to them. The door closed, and immediately Razak's eyes fell on the portraits placed on the wall close to the door, which captured himself and his two friends.
If you enjoyed this audiobook and would love to get the ebook or paperback, kindly click on the link in the description.